young company and to share with you everything that we have been able to accomplish. I would like to, at this time, introduce the other members of the Board of Directors. Please stand when your name is called. Mr. John Bordnick, CEO. Dr. Jacob Smith. Dr. Smith joined JBI as Chief Operating Officer in the fall of 2009 and is currently responsible for upgrading and updating Packett's facility in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Mr. John Wesson. Mr. Wesson has served in the banking industry for a number of years and prior to that served in the U.S. military and is a veteran of the Desert Storm. Mr. Greg Goldberg. Mr. Goldberg brings many years of financing experience to JBI's board, and he has over 20 years of experience on Wall Street. And I am Amy Bradshaw. At this time, I'd like to just brief you on the proxy voting process. JBI's current auditors, Gately & Associates, will be managing that process. Shareholders of record as of March 23rd have the ability to vote via proxy, and those results will be tallied and made available following the AGM to the shareholder community. At this time, I would like to introduce JBI's Chief Financial Officer, Ron Baldwin, who will provide a brief overview of JBI's financials.
Thank you, Amy. I'd like to show you the overview of our financial position as of December 31st, 2009. I think you'll see that it's quite strong, and we believe it's sufficient to execute our business plan now and going forward. The most striking part, I think, of the asset side of our balance sheet is that we have 17% of our assets in cash. In order to grow and develop our company, we will need that to make investments in P2O, Packet, and Java Code that we believe will generate substantial future revenues. We have other assets total other assets of 22%, and that represents the investment in Java Code and Packet. And we have a small amount of fixed assets at the current time. The other large item on our balance sheet on the asset side are media credits that currently represent 56% of our assets. We expect that these media credits will be used during 2010 and will no longer show up on our balance sheet at the end of the year. We will use them to advertise the launch of the Packet and P2O process. The liability side of our balance sheet is quite striking in that the total liabilities only represent 5% of the net asset value of the company. The remaining 95% of the liabilities and equity is all owned by stockholders. We're not owned by banks, we're not owned by hedge funds. We're owned by all of you, and we're happy to thank you for that. Moving forward is the most important item on our balance sheet, and that's $4 million in cash recently raised through a private offering. That will be used to develop all of our companies. We have negligible liabilities. We expect to make significant investments in Packet and plastic oil in the first half of 2010. We take a cautious approach to expenditures. We don't have $10,000 shower curtains hanging in anybody's office. We do expect, however, to have significant expenditures in investments, not in expenses, and that should generate revenues going forward. The expectation is that the commercial launch of plastic to oil in 2010 will result in significant sales increases for each one of our units. JBI, in my opinion, is in a strong financial position to execute our business plan going forward. Thank you.
I have a quote from Albert Einstein that I would like more complex, or more violent. It takes a touch of genius and a lot of courage to move in the opposite direction. To me, this quote is personified in JBI's CEO, John Bortnick, who I'd like to now welcome to the stage.
Well, we're all here. It's been one incredible year, hasn't it? Absolutely amazing. I'd like to start by thanking many of our shareholders have come out to our sites and helped us in various ways to build as fast as we have. And without our strong shareholder base, we wouldn't be here today. There are shareholders that came in on their weekends, their own time, to help weld and build and get our plastic oil machine from a small little prototype unit all the way to a large 20-ton processor. And I'd really like to thank all the people in the room that have helped make that happen. Thank you. Let's begin with the birth of JBI, and I'll go through what we've done in a year. We started back last April. I acquired a shell very quickly to take our plastic to oil public. This allowed us to access funds through public markets to very quickly scale our P2O process. As well, we started trading as 310 Holdings. So we had to start at something, so we picked that up back on April 23rd, 1 year, basically 1 year today. And we gained access, as I said again, through the capital markets, I call it. And we rolled the tape business into 310 Holdings. So what I had to do first was sell some tape assets to the company to get some revenues in it so that we could go out and make some strategic acquisitions that would allow us to be able to roll out our true business plan, which is plastic to oil. And we did that by using our tape business, which was already sole sourced by NASA. And as of July last year, we were blanket sole sourced by NASA, and we were reading MIT tapes. And those two combinations really gave us a lot of credibility and validity as a very small company growing very quickly. And in that same quarter, we began making two very strategic acquisitions to execute our business plan. And so part of that business plan was really, we started off as a small office here in Niagara Falls. We needed, which gives us basically a water-soluble cleaner. It's just an incredible product. I loved it. When I saw a little packet of glass cleaner put on the boardroom table in front of me, and I was told that costed 3 cents. That sold me right then and there. So not only did we gain a great chemical company, we got a great management team, we also got a great product to continue to build our business units with. And with that, I'd like to introduce to you Judy Vasquez of Javico. Thank you.
Good afternoon. I am very, very excited to be here. Thank you. It's important. I'm very excited to participate in this first annual meeting of JBI Global Shareholders. And more importantly, I'm excited to have become a part of the JBI companies and to help in our mutual growth of all the different parts, and especially in the plastic to oil. Our business focus specifically, as you have all read probably in the SEC blurbs, is we're a distributor of cable TV equipment to cable TV systems and telecommunications company. Well, I just want to explain a little bit more about us so that you have a better idea of exactly what we do and who we are, not just some little blurb. Our main presence, and in addition to that, as we move forward, we plan to help the expansion of, as John said, of packet and P2O products, packet products and P2O sites in Latin America. To give you a quick history, I started Java Company in 1997 after being a salesperson in the cable TV industry. I had experience since 1993. Having worked in that industry and deciding it was time I needed to do something on my own, I started a business in Columbus, Ohio. And I was working out of my home, which was a nice situation. I was a single mother, 3 teenagers. It's a good thing to be at home when you have 3 teenagers. My experience in the cable TV industry had been in Latin America. And you may wonder, why is this blonde selling in Latin America? I've got the typical gringa face. that I met in Acapulco, raised 3 kids in Mexico. I actually lived in Mexico City for 12 years, and I studied at the Universidad Nacional de Mexico. That's how I got fluent in Spanish, and I practiced it for 12 years. We moved back after that large earthquake in 1985 to the US, and that's when I got started. My Spanish language got me into the cable TV industry. Well, anyways, with a couple of high-limit credit cards, in the beginning, I was able to finance my business. I would buy with credit cards and sell, and it was just a nice cycle. Later on, my business got too big, too fast. I had a lot of good contacts. So I hired Tina Tomlin, our US sales director, and she has 25 years, more than 30 years now of experience in the cable TV industry to balance our business with US receivables. Banks do not lend easily on foreign receivables. They like US receivables, so that was our plan. Now, before bringing her on, I was always drop shipping everything, never touched anything, no overhead, nothing. That was my plan. Well, we decided to sell in the US, you need a warehouse, you need inventory, and that's why we moved to this warehouse. You can see here from the first picture, we're almost all women. That wasn't on purpose, it just happened that way. We finally decided we had to hire 2 token males to balance out the hormones in the office, which can get pretty horrible sometimes, and a male dog. So they really are token males, they're very good salesmen. And then after that, in our first sales in the US, we got certified with the WBEC, the Women's Business Enterprise National Council. That certification is very good, as you know. If you can get your foot in the door, somebody will listen to you at least and give you a chance to sell. And we got very large orders with Comcast then. After that, our business grew so much that we were honored with the Inc. 5000 as one of the top growing businesses, small businesses in the US, and also as one of the top 100 women-owned businesses in Ohio. So, Javico sells in 3 different ways. We have a retail area, that's a very small part of our business, but we have found that we get new contacts there that turn into much larger customers. People walk in, they buy a couple tools, or a contractor comes and picks up a truckload of strand or hardware to do construction. We also have an e-commerce site, feel free to buy there. It's www.shopjavico.com. There are some things that you may find that you could use when you're installing cable in your house. That is a growing part of our business. And we also, a large part is warehouse and drop ship orders that we ship the bulk of our business. What does Javico really sell? Well, here's some of the major brands that we distribute. DeWalt, you've also heard of a DeWalt drill. 3M, there are many items we sell from them, mainly plastic items that we could probably recycle. Trilithic test equipment is one of our big vendors. All the different types of tools, Klein tools, Thomas & Betts connectors. You can tell here, I've divided this up, just to make it simple, into 5 different categories. Installation products. Most of our installation products reside in the back end of a cable installer's truck. If you look in there someday when the guy or woman goes to your house to install your cable, there's cable, there's tools, there's cable in a reel, in a box, wall plates, wall fishing tools, shoe covers to protect your carpets, laptop mounts, etc. The next category would be fiber. FTTX we call it because it's fiber to the home, fiber to the business. We sell fiber optic cable as well, but we also sell the product that you need to install it, such as fusion splicers, splice cases, cleaning products to keep the fiber optic connectors clean, jumpers, and related items. The next category, identification products. This would be something we could recycle as well into the P2O. They're all plastic. There's always a need for showing and advising who owns a cable, or if there's a hazard, like with fiber optic laser coming out of the cable, identifying a customer, etc. We can give you a warning label that stands up to UV rays for up to 30 years. It may last even longer than the fiber itself. Tools. There are many, many specialized tools in this industry, and we have every one of the brands. There's different types of cutters, different types of wrenches, coring and stripping tools for different types of cable. etc. I could go on for days with that. Custom kits. A lot of times a contractor may get a new job at a cable system. He has to hire 30 contractors. We supply them with a kit of tools. They may buy 50 kits at one time with all the tools that installer needs. Test instruments. Test instruments is the part that I like to sell the best, and we have some very good lines that are exclusively for Latin America. Those are big ticket items. They're more complicated to sell, but it's worth it because you get ongoing business and higher margins. Well, let's go back to Latin America. First of all, our customers in the U.S., Time Warner is one of our larger ones. Right now, Comcast used to be one of our largest ones. ACI, Broadband Express, Dycom, those are all contractors that you may have heard of. In the Mexico City office, it's called Javacable Proveedora y Mantenimiento. That means Javacable supplier and maintenance. We were hoping to do some contracting soon out of that office. I hired a person that was a buyer in one of our customers, and she has done a great job of growing the business there. Our largest customer in Mexico by far is Cablecom. You can see it at the bottom of the screen. There's a multi-system operator, and they have businesses all over Mexico. Since a lot of the companies in cable have consolidated, for example, Televisa, who's a large broadcaster you may have heard of, they own Cablevisión, which is a 600,000 subscriber system in Mexico City, and they own systems in other cities as well. I'm actually going to see the system Telum in Monterrey on Wednesday to do a presentation on equipment deployment. In 2008, we hired a sales engineer in Bogota, Colombia, and he's helped deploying test equipment. He has a lot of experience in the cable system, and he's helping us in South America and Central America. And Telmar Peru, in Lima, Peru, he's a small distributor as well, smaller than us, but he has been key in keeping our largest customer, which is Telefónica de Peru. Telefónica España is one of the largest cable and telephone suppliers in the world, and that is by far our largest customer. We are selling hundreds of thousands of dollars in cable amplifiers there every month. In Central America, we're strong in Costa Rica. Cabletica is one of our best customers as well. And now for the good news. We've had a great year, we've had a great first quarter. We have increased our sales compared to last year in the first quarter by 52%. As you can see there's a big jump. A lot of that John said sell, and we sold. Also, Telefonica helped us add a huge project. But yes, we are very happy with that. And so far, we have about $1 million more booked this month, and we're hoping to get the same increase next month, and hopefully sustain it throughout the year. To finish up here, I just want to talk a little bit. I've been working with Packet on a marginal basis. I'm helping them right now buy equipment from a manufacturer in Mexico that is manufactures packaging equipment to put the little packets and the detergents in the little packets. And I plan to travel with them next month to decide which machine they want to buy. And also to streamline our business, we're all consolidating our accounting software. We want to make Ron's life easier. It will be a lot easier for him to do his reporting and his SEC reporting. And last of all, the opportunity to work in the plastic recycling industry is near and dear to my heart. I have always been an environmentally conscious person, and this is such a great opportunity to work in something that's actually going to help our environment and also make money for all of us. I am very, very pleased, and I
everybody. I'm so very excited to be here today with all of you, not only as the president of Packet, but also as a committed stockholder of JBI, and I thank you for the opportunity, Johnny, you've given us. So before I get started, I want to ask a question. You all saw the display out front, and the Packet display. How many of you have received samples at your home and have worked with the product? Show of hands. A lot of people. Now for the honest question. When you receive those samples, how many of you cut, ripped, or tore the package open? We got a couple honest people. Well, I'm here to show you a little bit about Packet because I think it's important you understand the concept of Packet. Packet is a concentrated cleaning chemical that dissolves in water. It's an unbelievable technology, and it's really given us an opportunity to get into a lot of retailers and a lot of business. Nobody has this product out here. This is a quart of glass cleaner, as John was saying earlier. And he should have said the cost, but I guess you all know it now, so it's okay. But anyway, quart of glass cleaner. You simply drop the packet in the bottle, add some water to it, shake it up, and it makes a quart of glass cleaner. And to enhance that, we also have a product, larger product, that actually goes into mop bucket and wringers, auto scrubbers, carpet extractors, and so on. So we have a real unique offering here for the Packet products. And if you haven't got your samples, I know John's selling them out there, make a little extra money to pay for this whole thing, so by all means, you can grab your kit and take it home with it. So, our model and what we're after and where we go is our business categories. Back of the house commercial cleaning is important to us, private label opportunities that we've been working on, and direct to consumer. This happens to be our offering. We are able, with this Packet technology, to be able to consolidate our products into a kit customized for our customers. What we've done is we've actually saved a lot of retailers out there 30 to 50% on their spend. And you can see Michael's Craft Store, Home Depot, and the other companies are large building service contractors that either utilize the product or they sell it or utilize it in the Home Depot and the retail locations. That 30 to 50% savings we're able to offer, a lot of it is due to the fact that our customer or our competitors sell products that are just misused and abused by just glugging with the gallons or mixing systems that don't work. Our product, no matter how you deliver it, it gives the exact measurement. This happened to be a Home Depot presentation. This kit, this box that you see up there is about 52 pounds. We had the opportunity with a large building service contractor to go in and evaluate what Home Depot was doing. Nobody, not one manufacturer had all the business. We went in with this customer. We actually did a time study on everything that they were using in there, from how many times they squirted that glass, and how many times they dropped the packet in the auto scrubber, and we actually fixed their cost, reduced their spend, and gave them complete inventory control. By saving them and the contractors $1.2 million, that contract at Home Depot was a $1.6 million contract to us at Packet. We've taken that concept and we've gone out to other retailers, such as Michael's Craft Store, and we just left our show last week. We opened up Burlington Co-Factories and Godiva Chocolates. So now when you go to Godiva Chocolates, you know you're supporting Packet because they have to buy back to clean stores. When we were selling Michael's Craft Store, we had an opportunity. Michael's Craft Store, when they buy the cleaning products, anything that's not for resale in the store is usually supplied by an outside company, a national supplier. Well, it just so happens they were going out to bid. They were using our product, buying it direct. And then what happened, when they went out to bid, there was only one criteria in their specifications for going out to bid, and that was that you had to be a partner with Packet or you don't get my business. And it was over a $2 million piece of business for Michael's Craft Store. So we were fortunate to have all these customers calling us saying, hey, we want to set up a relationship with you, we want that business. Well, it just so happens that Grainger got that business. And everybody knows that Grainger is out there, hopefully in Canada. I guess you would know Grainger's in North America. Huge company, and we think the potential for Grainger's now, on a private label deal, we're going to private label 14 of our products under the Tough Guy label, will net us about $3 million within the next 2 years. Another private label deal we've enjoyed over the last few years is Karcher pressure washer. You'd probably see them in the Walmart, Sam's Clubs, and so on. It's a little electric pressure washer, and gas pressure washers as well. And we supply them with 4 products that's in that little clamshell there. You can now shop either at QVC, Walmart, and pick that product up under the Karcher private label brand. This is a new opportunity we just landed as well. This is a company that's been on QVC. If you watch QVC, you might have seen this Final detail. This is a spray and wax detail for your car. That's not our product, but they just partnered with us to create a water-soluble packet, a large one, similar to this, called car wash pack. He's going to deliver 25 packets in a little container, along with his wax product. For $25, you're going to have 25 car washes and car waxes. That'll end up netting you $1 to wash your car and wax your car. So that's going to be launching in the next 30 days in QBC, and we're very excited about that opportunity. We think we'll do very well with it. Acquisitions, as John said, he bought Packet from us in September of '09. Very excited about this opportunity. And with that, we have another private label deal we're doing. I just got back recently from China. And we're fortunate to have the owner of Victory in the house today. I won't ask him to stand up. One of the owners of Victory. And this is a private label opportunity in China, in Shanghai. I was amazed when I got to China to find out how many people live in Shanghai, 35 million people. And the opportunity in the retail is going to be huge for us there. So we launched not only in the retail piece with this packaging and this container, the spray bottle, they liked our technology and what we were doing back at house. And they launched at a trade show, and they're going after back-of-house industry in China as well. And then this leads me to one of the most exciting things that we're doing here, you should be as excited with as well, is our own private label brand retail product. So for all the people that I met out there in the back that said, how do I get this? How do I buy it? Do I go on the website? Well, hopefully you'll be able to go to your retail store and purchase this product direct right off the retail shelf. We have a complete line of products. We're so excited about this product, and what we're going to be doing, you're going to see some infomercials that go on out there, into, yeah, that slide. I think they moved, there it is, infomercial. You're going to be able to watch this on TV and see these commercials and infomercials for our complete lineup of drop shot products. And what's really exciting about this, 470 million viewers are going to be viewing. So let's take a moment and think about that. We sell a retail quart at $1. I'm being conservative here because Windex is $2.75 a quart. At $1, we have 4 products. We multiply that times 470 million viewers that want to purchase our products. That's a significant amount of money. And to the investment, right to the bottom line. So at this time, I'd like to introduce Ron Kerr, our Vice President of Research and Development. Thank you very much.
Good afternoon. My name is Ron Kerr, VP of R&D, and it's an absolute pleasure to be here and see everybody. It's just as excited as everybody that works with JBI. I think I have the best job in the company because clearly JBI is a company that has a philosophy that it all hasn't been done. There is so many opportunities and so many unique things to do with the technology that's going on, with the green movement, with a lot of different chemical companies that are diverting the ways that they conduct business is creating plenty of opportunities. With that said, the other part of my job along with product development is to assist in operations as new products get developed, move them through production. As Steve mentioned the retail launch, there is a need for an increase in production capabilities. While Packet was predominantly limited to a little bit into commercial, industrial type business, now with this retail launch we need to ramp up production. So with that said, we've located an additional facility for production that's in the Philly area, and we've also managed to secure people, the management professionals to manage those buildings as the new equipment comes in and those get ramped up for production. So part of the capital investment with machines that are en route. These are new machines. They're absolutely phenomenal. They're with a patented product. Naturally, you can't go out on the shelf and buy one of these pieces of equipment. These were designed, modified, especially for heat seal, for the film that we use for the packet products. So these machines, part of the design is increased capacity, going from 24 packets a minute, as an example, to 360 packets per minute, which you take into production capabilities up to 12 million packets a month capability. So plenty of capacity for the retail launch and also diversification of products. There's also automated labeling equipment, packaging equipment, all getting designed, and all en route, like I said, to the new facilities. The chemicals that are available now for development of products, as input comes in from sales, marketing, investors, can come in from a number of different directions. Development of those products is a lot of fun. I get to play with all the chemicals, the equipment, all the new equipment, and it's just doing the performance evaluations, and it's just a lot of fun. So while there's a number of projects that are constantly ongoing to increase new type of product, but also doing cost-effective, improved performance as soils change, as processes change, so too the products just get constantly monitored. So a lot of the products that have been in existence with Packet are under constant scrutiny for better performance. So I selected a few products that have been recently developed, have gone through test marketing, and are available for sampling. A lot of it comes from the retail launch. There was a lot of interest in an automatic dishwash. There's actually several different formulas that have been test marketed, depending on what the acceptance is going to be and how the marketing plans go. That's not my world. That's the marketing and sales. But there's formulas that with and without fragrances and dyes and various size packets. The second product, it's a wash and wax packet. As Steve mentioned, there's some advertising that's been done. What's unique about this one is it's a little bit smaller packet, it's a little bit more concentrated, plus the formula was able to be modified to with some of the new raw materials that are currently available that weren't available even a year ago. The next product is a flatware pre-soak. The precursor to this formula was really designed for industrial use only. With the retail launch and some interest in those areas, a packet was needed specifically for the kitchen type soils and oils. Plus they have flatware pre-soak that has a tendency to separate if anybody has played with it. This product stays completely uniform, so we can put it in a quart that doesn't separate and do any of those types of things. It's a very effective product. The next product is a super cleaner packet, which was a little bit more of a technical challenge than a request by sales, but it's going to have some unique properties as we continue to evaluate the performance and its applications. It's a pretty unique blend of a number of different detergents that normally wouldn't go together, but like I said, on the technical side, it is available for a number of performance tests. The next one, it's a bubble bath. I have 6 kids, and they all wanted a bubble bath. So the technical challenge there was that in a lot of the industrial products, you use certain types of detergents that don't foam really well. And it's a very difficult thing to do, since a lot of those types of detergents weren't compatible in the existing packet formulation. So it was really start from the ground up and be able to have something that generates a lot of foam, be mild to the skin. So while I call it a bubble bath, it really could be used in car washes and anywhere where high foaming type products that are mild to the skin are used. But jacuzzis, it works really good. The next product is extremely unique, and it's a very exciting project to work on. This product while it's commonly used in the janitorial supply, it's sold in quarts and drums and all that stuff. But the biggest problem with it was you have to dilute it. You have to dilute it properly to get the performance. This packet was formulated with a whole new line of ingredients because it has to be compatible with the packet, no water and all that good stuff. But it's pre-dosed, so anyone using the product is going to get the maximum performance. So whether you put it in a bucket or an auto scrubber, they're going to get the right amount of chemical onto the floor and being used. So the cleaning performance is actually phenomenal. And what it also does is it prepares the floor and makes it burnish ready. That gets you to the wet wall whenever any of the store owners or anyone burnishes the floor electric or propane, and they're going to get that wet wall. The next very unique thing is that the slip resistance of the floor is increased, making floors safer, and a lot of companies are looking at reducing that liability and maintaining programs using this type of product. The next product, it's a little bit of an extension of that. As you've seen in casinos and a number of facilities, a lot of polished marble. There was a request from sales to formulate a product that is currently not available, as far as anybody knows, to be able to be used on marble to increase the coefficient of friction when it's wet. This is very unique. Like I said, that product doesn't exist right now commercially. However, the product has been developed, has been tested here in the Niagara Falls area, and the testing is the performance of the product is being evaluated by Marsh Unlimited, which is a third-party risk assessment company, who's extremely interested and very encouraged by what the results we've gotten so far. They have not seen that product contribute any increased coefficient of friction on wet marble that they've seen so far, and we've already gotten very, very good results. So the testings will continue on that to finalize and bring that formula to production here very soon. Okay. I think that's it.
So here's the fun part for me. I spend a lot of my time working, I used to spend a lot of my time actually working on data. And data from NASA, data from MIT, it's almost total chaos. You're looking at random things happening, trying to figure out what it is and make some sense of it. Well, plastic to oil is actually about as close to chaos as you can get. And then really, like anything else, it's managing it. And so that's what our P2O rollout is about. That's what I saw in April from it, and I'll go right into the slides, and I'm going to try and explain and go beyond a bit more about really where we've been and where we're going with it, and how we got there. And I hope you to leave with an understanding of what exactly we're doing, and from there really how to scale it out and grow it fairly quickly. The first thing that was important was we had this wonderful concept back in April. I was researching a tape archive for an oil and gas client of ours, Addicts Petroleum. And I was looking up seismic data on my massive archive, trying to understand well log formats, seismic data formats, everything in oil and gas I really didn't know anything about. And so fortunately, with every other search in our own in-house engineering archive, I found a very interesting document that had some information about a catalyst to break down plastic. Basically, it wasn't used to convert plastic into diesel, but I recalled back years before when I was at the legislature, when basically the large bottle companies had lobbied the government to go all plastic and remove basically the returnable bottles, basically eliminate glass. So they created this huge plastic problem, and we all knew there that it had become a huge disaster, and sure enough it has. It didn't take very long too, it took about less than 10 years really to create a huge mess. So the first thing is I found this paper, And we had to get a little machine, which I'll explain in a minute, but it was, how do you build something like this quickly? So we obviously had to go to the public markets for it. I don't like venture capital. I don't like the way they take a small company and they basically get it on an exchange fairly quickly with limited financing, pump up the stock. Their people exit, and you're left with a CEO, some cash, and a company that's barely operable. I see it all the time, all kinds of startups that come up. You see them on the market, they go up and they crash. I wanted to avoid that. So we started this differently. The first thing was get public through a public shell and then bring in retail investors. Let's make people here, and many of you are here today, who are investors in that company at some level. So you've become the funds of what we're trying to do. And so the second part of it really was we had access to this huge idea archive that we have back in the late 90s. While everyone else was watching the dot-com stock boom, I was all over the country buying up computer systems from every university and factory I possibly could. I bought their tape archives, I bought their computers, and then ended up flipping and selling them to the deep pocket founders of the basically Fortune 100 technology companies. This happened in the year 2000. Through that process, these founders wanted to access their original data and relive the nostalgia of their university years. So I had to develop an engine basically capable of transferring or basically migrating the data that they saved back in the 60s and be able to read it in modern formats. And with that, we built a huge archive and really an engine to be able to manage this old data. And it continued to grow and grow and grow. Today, somewhere around 50 million documents in it, all the way through from the 60s through the start of the internet, all the way through to 93, 95, and so forth. And so it was really taking all of that and then really building this plastic toil idea we've had and using the information research I found and test to see if it's good. So the first thing was I searched the internet for something that would simulate a small little processor. We could just test the catalyst and our concepts. And we found the company Blessed in Japan. They're not doing well. The product makes, a kind of a slurry type fuel. Its energy return is poor, and it isn't, it has no real practical commercial purposes. But for us, on a lab unit, the way to test in a kind of safe way, with, as you can see, basically a visual indicator here, this is a glass column with water in it, it gave us basically a little mini refinery to test our process in. So Alan Barnett and I went out and I bought the catalyst. We mixed it up. Of course, I don't have a lot of expertise in chemistry, so I learned as we went along and didn't mix it right, but that was a good thing. It worked out well. And so when I showed Alan all this, and Alan Barnett is our chemist, he looked at me and went, this can't work, because if it worked, everyone would be doing it. So, I said, well, let's try it. So we put it inside this processor with a bunch of different plastics, and lo and behold, we had fuel coming out. And we learned as we changed various operating parameters inside this machine, we modified it extensively, we could adjust the kind of fuel output we were getting. And so Alan then built this, he added a nitrogen purge, so we'd stop getting gas from it when we were trying to load it. He built a little feeder, that little gray thing on top. Eventually we limited the glass column, because one of the things that we felt while we were testing this small process was, we were sending out our fuel to be sampled, but we thought, we've got to be adding water to the fuel, because our condenser here essentially was just bubbling the hydrocarbon gas through water. So Alan then redesigned the unit and built his own condenser, and guess what? We weren't adding any water to the fuel. Actually, we get 0.0% water in our fuel. And the second thing was, we didn't have any sediment. So then we went beyond this and went, wow, this is a really good thing. And there it is again, that's the basic condenser, the basic system that Alan did and modified. From there, we said, we've got to analyze this better. So we went out and bought a gas chromatograph. ILChem has hundreds of these, we have one. So we built a small little oil and gas lab here in Niagara Falls. And Alan processed the output of our machine so we could better understand the kind of fuel we were processing. And from that, what I want to do right now is really show you what it is we're doing. This is what I would call polymer cracking. And in its simplest forms, and at the highest possible level, what I'm showing you at the top line here is what plastic is. It's a hydrocarbon chain and very long. And what you have to do is when you heat it up, and in the right conditions, you can crack it. and you're cracking it in smaller lengths. The smaller the length, the lighter the fuel. So you're starting with anything with C1 to C4 is natural gas. You get that all at home. That's what runs your furnaces and heats your homes in the winter. Anything beyond that, between 5 and 9, you're looking at gasoline. Beyond 10, you're at diesel. Then you're heading into anything over 20 is really wax. And then you get into heavy fuels, and then what I call the slurry and slop that you really don't want. That's the heavy products. What's interesting about polymer cracking, and what I've learned a lot about organic chemistry is, it's chaos. So it's a random result. So basically, if you took a machine right now and you heated up plastic, you would randomly get some gas, some natural gas, a lot of wax, and it looks like a slurry, really, in the end. So what we had to do first, and with our blast unit, is we designed a small unit that could take the long hydrocarbon chains in plastic, the shredded plastic, heat it up, and then convert it into these smaller chains. And more importantly, how do we control it in such a way that we get the kind of fuel we want? And that's not so easily done. So here again, a large hydrocarbon plastic chain. I'm showing you the length of what diesel would look like in gasoline. This is generally what you're getting in random hydrocarbon cracking. Really, this is when you just take your plastic, your polyethylene, you throw it in the machine, you heat it up the way you see many sites that come up and down. They say, oh, we're doing plastic oil. They produce about 10% gasoline, 20% diesel, and 70% slop. And it's useless. It's like a waxy substance. All the fuel basically permeates it, and this is what you're stuck with. It's not sellable. Refineries don't like it, and it's difficult to work with. It doesn't flow at all. So it's a nightmare to try and even transport from your machine to tank. What we did was something a bit different. We took our catalyst and our operating parameters, and again, we were running a fairly, I would almost call it a backyard chemistry lab. We had a lab, we had a chemist, but we didn't have the kind of technology really at that time that Iochem had to give us the expertise we needed to take it to the next level. But what we did know from our lab test is that we can produce 8% natural gas out of our process. We can consistently produce about 15% gasoline, 75% diesel, and this was the coolest part, 0.02% of any long chains. So that's your wax. Very, very little. And less than 2% residue. Could I get a drink, please? Thanks. This again to show you what our fuel results are and how they really break down. So again, we're at an 8% natural gas, which is something that's wonderful. Our process needs about 3% natural gas to actually run. We have a surplus of natural gas. We are creating gasoline. Originally, we were tuning the machine all over the place. So originally, we were at almost all gasoline and natural gas. We also went down at the other end. I was talking to some MIT professors, and they suggested we make white oil out of aliphatics instead of aromatics. I'll get into that in a minute, what that all means. But essentially, they were saying, let's make some oil for Goodyear and tires that they're required to use now, which don't contain the carcinogens that aromatics have. So we were moving the scale all over the place, and finally, in the end, with the help of Iochem, they definitely agreed that making diesel was the best product in the world to make out of our machine. So this again is what a gas chromatogram actually looks like. And this is generally what you're getting out of a crude. This would be out of an old stripper well. So you have your light ends, then you have your gasoline here, then you have your diesel in here, and this stuff here is the waxy, tar, asphalt, all the stuff you don't want. It comes up from the ground, they have to deal with it, and it's a problem. Our process right now, because of Iochem in the end and the kind of tuning they've been able to do to take the variables out of our process, we consistently make this, and it's gorgeous. Look at the peaks, they're incredible. We've got natural gas, we have some gasoline, we have a heck of a lot of diesel, and right down there, around 20, we have no heavy ends at all, no wax product. It flows beautifully, it looks great, it's an amber fuel. We've had it tested by Intertech and Petra Labs, and the reports are incredible. The only thing that Iochem doesn't like is we have a bit too much gasoline or light ends in it, which they're helping us with to remove through what generally refineries would do is put a second condenser in to basically tap off the lighter product so that our diesel can go directly into the engine. Our diesel is better than most of the diesel products. Our sulfur content is at me like we were crazy. They did. They were skeptical. They thought, there's no way this is going to work. You can't possibly get any kind of energy conversion. Everyone that's trying it, microwave, infrared, all those. It costs so much energy to break down the plastic, the end fuel product isn't worth, you can't recover your money. So I said, well, our energy conversion is about 2,000 to 3,000 BTUs for 44,000. They looked at us like this and went, no. So we engaged them on December 9th, and they built this. At the same time, we also built a 1-ton processor so that they were able to test. Basically, their job at this time was to say, okay, you guys built it this way. We wouldn't do this in our lab because there's just far too many variables, and we're going to eliminate them. So they built this incredible architecture around it to capture the off gases, to capture the residues, to analyze everything they can. What you don't see in this picture is all these tubes are going off to various machines to analyze the fuels and off gases and residues. So here's our 1-ton unit. So with the small unit, we wanted to make sure it scaled, and really so did ILCAM. So we went off and built, after we bought a Chinese machine, a 1-ton processor like this. We built it fairly quickly. Up top, I'll show you, the red bar is actually a feeder into the system. This is a continuous machine, unlike the Blessed unit, so you don't shut it off. It runs 24/7. You feed plastic into it. The very top chamber up top simulates the unit that we purchased, our large 20-ton processor. It has a rotary reactor in it. The fuel comes up in a condenser into various stages below through a water seal, and we get our fuel off. So what was really nice about this 1-ton is anything that ILCAM had figured out what we should be doing in the lab, we were able to test and make sure that it did scale properly, which it did. And they really helped us, and they helped us through this whole process of designing and building this unit. This column here on the right-hand side up with the blue handle on it was actually a manual catalyst feeder in case we had to feed anything else into it to try and make this thing go. In the end, it did run fairly well and fairly quickly, but then we moved on to a much larger machine, which I'll get to in a minute. Again, we have our catalyst column here. We had a screw feed system into the main reactor, and we had it monitored with our controls came off into our own systems. Then, finally, our 20-ton processor arrived after sitting in customs for a very long time. There's a group of 3 of our staff realizing that we really need to own a building with a crane. So China Shipping showed up at our door in the fall with our first container, which included the other half of the processor. We opened it. We leased a building here from a shareholder here, Nap Biomoney. The truck came in. We looked, we can't get this stuff out of here. It weighed tons. Like the concrete alone and the part that goes around the rotary reactor was around 15 tons. We had a 3-ton total. So we had to leave the truck. We had to go and order cranes and have all the equipment pulled out. And this second container, they were really, really helpful. They thought they were doing us a favor so we wouldn't burn our hands. They shipped us a pair of asbestos gloves. And they put them in the reactor. So as soon as this arrived in BC, we had a wonderful time. Health Canada came in. Everyone came in. This thing was quarantined so fast. And so it took us 2 months to bail it out and get a group to come in, a whole cleanup team. They set up a tent around it, opened up the container, came in there with their spacesuits to remove a set of asbestos gloves. And that was 2 of the longest months of my life, waiting for that piece to come so we could rebuild the big guy. And that reactor there that you're looking at is about 6.5 feet in diameter and 18 feet long. So when you look at our little 1-ton and our little Blessed, that's just the reactor part. It's huge. You put a lot of plastic in there fairly quickly. So in Q3, we learned a lot. We acquired 3 companies. That was hard. Get all the accounting and financials together. We're scaling up P2O at an enormous rate. We're dealing with the chaotic public markets. Then we're dealing with chaotic data from NASA. It's the same thing. And really, we had to deal with the delay of our processor. We had to integrate and build a company with management to figure out how to make this plastic to oil go. Because it's great, we have this machine that does cool things, but we have to have a unit behind it, an infrastructure to actually get it out to market, lock up feedstock, get agreements, build sites, permitting, all these things that go into really launching a really successful product. And so, right after that, we also had a real challenge here, and this is where Ron Baldwin came in, and he saved the day. We had to somehow consolidate the financial systems for all these different companies, and Packet came with a really added benefit and bonus. Unlike every other company in the world, they didn't use QuickBooks or Simply Accounting. They rolled their own accounting system back in, it looked like the 40s, it was really the 80s. And so Ron had to rebuild their accounting back from basically cash statements back 2 years. And so he kept his head down in their invoices and books and bank statements for several months, building us a set of financial statements that we could depend on for public reporting reasons. So that was a huge challenge in itself. So while we're dealing with, the plastic to oil scale-up, Packet, sales, investors, everything else, then we've got this wonderful accounting thing that's just volleyed into our court. Quarter 4 was a lot more interesting for us. So we got through the chaos in Q3. We got pretty comfortable with our plastic to oil process. We're still running pretty small at that time, but we consolidated all our information from testing. So basically, we documented the heck out of what we were doing and figured out what works, what doesn't, how we were doing it. We still didn't know everything about it because we just didn't have enough equipment to analyze it. We knew what we were approximately getting. We'd send off our tests to Intertek. Intertek would come back and say, yeah, it feels great. We do the ASTM specs, but we still didn't know all of the variables and how to really control it. And so what really came into it was we had to integrate the companies and get expertise everywhere to help us build this company up. We also went out to our shareholder base and said, help me. I need welders, we need metal workers, we need everything. So while we're dealing with all these things of basically building what's going to be a huge company, we also had to try and scale up. So we brought in and really merged all of the company staff to help us on these projects we were working on. We also developed a business structure to launch P2O, and that came from the Packet acquisition. Our Florida management team is absolutely incredible in this field. They've worked with private real estate deals, huge deals. They understand permitting. They've been through all the processes. They know their stuff, and they know what it takes to launch a product like this. The last thing is really our testing in Q4. We finally said, you know what? We've done everything we can do. We know it works. We can scale it. But we've got to get permitted. We've got to deal with certain things. How do we do that? So we engaged ILCAM on December 9th, 2009. And that was by far the best decision this company has ever made. Because as I said, when we went in there, they were skeptical as could be. And 4 months later, I'm sitting across from Dale, and he's looking at me and saying, I'm shocked. He said that 6 times about our energy conversion. And it's something when you can take a group full of PhD chemists that have seen everything on the planet and say they're shocked, and a few other interesting words to describe wow. And that really was the best day for us at that point. And so JBI had as well, all of this. We also had this huge balloon debt coming. So while we're engaging ILCAM, building all the stuff, building Packet, helping Javico, assisting everything, pulling together the financials, scaling the company, all in parallel, we then have this huge loan that's due at the end of the year. And I don't like debt, so we had to deal with it, and we did. In a very turbulent economic time, we were able to pay the debt out in full for all the subsidiaries. We did so. We have a lot of cash to our business with. That was important. So Q1, where we are now. First thing, locking up plastic feedstock everywhere. It's everywhere. It's 94% of the plastic in the United States goes to landfill. Don't blame me, I didn't do it. They've done it for a long time, and despite what you hear, it's all going there. Visit a dump if you want to see it for yourself. It really is. The only thing that they're able to recycle right now is really PET plastic. It's separated by the large waste management companies. They sell it at basically 33 cents a pound, or it goes to the Chinese. The rest of it, especially when you get into mixed plastics and complex plastics, they can't be recycled at all. If you have a plastic that's polypropylene, polyethylene in it, what have you, no one will accept it. I've talked to dozens of recyclers, and they all tell me they have the same problem. You got a mixed plastic or any kind of contamination with it, it goes to landfill. So we worked on locking up the plastic feedstock. The second thing was this 20-ton processor. Time to scale and grow. ILCAM said this is great, let's do it. So we had to do that this quarter. ILCAM also provided the validation reports, and that took some time. I actually had those weeks ago. I had a ½ inch stack saying, in every technical term imaginable, it works. And then it was getting that down into one simple report document that was released to the market to show what it does. And so Dale summarized the results of 44 consecutive runs of the process. They said to us, it's repeatable, it's scalable, it's clean, it's green. They can't say no residue, but they can't find it here. There's no trace of it. Sorry, it isn't bad. The dark residue that go to landfill. The emissions from the machine as well is clean. And I'll show you a few pictures when you see the final machine. That's really an incredible part. And I'll get to that in a bit. But really, the ILChem part was really our molecular audit phase. So they figured out how to really get this thing scaled properly and remove all the variables. The financial markets, things we've learned a lot this last year. It's been a heck of a year, 1 year to do all this. The financial markets, every time I talk to somebody in the financial markets, they go, tape business, doesn't matter. Tapes is the declining field. No one uses them anymore anyway. They've obviously never visited NASA or any oil and gas company. That's all. We're going to see it tomorrow at our New York P2O factory. And what's important is we'll start posting run tickets for it when we have our production permits in. And I'll get into a bit of explanations of what that's all about and how we do it. And so really, the investment community, as the big investment bankers, they want to see the numbers on the machine. What can it do? So for that, we engaged URS 2 weeks ago. I signed a contract, it's a small agreement. They're going to come out and they're helping us with permitting outside of New York, basically Florida and Canada. And they're also going to do a production audit of the machine. As well, the investment community then gets to take all that information, they get to do what they do best, which is multiply the results and figure out what we can do. So our business right now is going to come down to how fast can we get permitted in various areas, how quickly can we build these machines, how much simpler can they get, and how profitable are they? And that's something that the investment community is working very quickly to bring them up those numbers. Our immediate goals are this. So, the DEC in New York has said, and they've looked at the chemistry of this. ILChem had to go there and say, we've got this. The DEC's looking at it and going, wow, is that simple? What are we missing? Nothing. It works. So the DEC has allowed us to build and operate. You usually can't build anything like this without a permit. So they've allowed us to build it and operate it and test it for a stack test that'll happen fairly shortly. CRE from Canada engaged to test it for 1 day. So the DEC will come out that day with our stack test. We'll release the results. That's the first stage of a permit. After that, ILChem's already done the material balance work. They've already done the chemistry work and everything else we need to get our permits. So we put that all in the DC and get a production permit. At that point in time, we can push the green switch on the machine and run it 24/7. That's another thing that ILChem figured out. We originally were going to run batch mode. They said absolutely not. You run continuous 24/7. Makes a lot of sense to us now, and it works that way. We have retained URS to help us with worldwide permitting. That's going to become fairly important because they have all of the contacts in the local communities and counties to get with the right engineering people locally that are used to getting permits through and as quickly as they can, with the help that we've had from the DEC and others, to really get this machine permitted in as many states as we can. As well, we're working with all levels of government to try and solve the plastic problem. It is a huge expense for every municipality. They don't make money on it. It is a pain in the neck for them. And if there's any way that they can convert their plastic to diesel fuel at a fixed cost, it's a great use of, it's a really great green project to run in the community, and they can eliminate some of the volatility in their fuel markets. I'm going to show you now the 20-ton machine and go through some very, very basic things, but what we've done with it. So we have, basically this is the left side of the machine. We have this plastic goes into this feeder here, it then goes up and drops into another one, up and across to, this is our large reactor. That was the large unit that you saw everyone pull out. It has like this, it's called a refractory oven, it's a rotary oven. Basically there's a furnace behind it that heats it. That furnace, by the way, is run on our own natural gas from our feedstock. What's very interesting is the natural gas comes, after it's burned, it comes out of this port here and out through a condenser to cool it. This is the second half of the machine, which basically shows the fuel comes out of our large processor into the big condenser, into this temporary tank, which is then pumped out into an oil tanker. Our fuel then goes back up through the hydrocarbon gas goes back through a secondary condenser to ensure that everything has condensed out. It goes into a water seal over here on the end. And now, one of the very interesting things you're going to see about this process, and when we say green, I mean green. I don't mean It's got filters and scrubbers and all kinds of stuff that just is a creative way of saying we're bubbling junk through water to get rid of it so it doesn't go in the atmosphere. But really, you've got this horrible water residue left that you've got to deal with. Our process, the gas from the entire closed loop system goes through this condenser, through this fan, up and out the stack. There are no filters, there are no scrubbers. The air that comes right out of the furnace of this process, the only output of this unit has absolutely no scrubber on it. It's as clean as can be. This is a side view of the process. And that was actually something that excited ILChem too, by the way. When they had that little unit there that was jury-rigged with 100 different things connected to it, they were testing everything possible that came out of it. And so, in the end, they helped us design and build a lot of this. So we have modified the Chinese unit that we did buy originally significantly. And ILChem was a very, very important part of that. For example, they looked at us when we got the burners, which run the oven on the right-hand side of this machine from China. They said, you can't possibly in a million years turn that on in this country. It's not legal. They don't care in China. But we had, basically, they just took their fuel or oil and just pumped it straight into a burner. So I thought, well, that's great. We'll just take our off gas and pump it in the burner. And ILChem said, no. So they found us the right engineers. They've worked with them in many other projects. We've actually retained an entire combustion engineer firm that designed our system that automatically cuts over to our off gas to keep the system running. And what's really cool about it is this is the same company that designed the combustion, basically the combustion chambers and the burners for Exxon's rotor reactors for some of the slag that they're trying to convert. They don't have the same process as us, but it's along the same lines. So it was nice to have a good, solid group like this that had a lot of experience. And ILChem knows these folks very well. On this side of the machine here, you can see very clearly again, there's the rotor reactor. You'll see that tomorrow. It turns. Fuel that goes up our main condenser, it condenses out into this tank. This is an automatic transfer pump. So basically what happens is our fuel fills up in this tank. When it gets to a certain level, the code that I've written with a group of engineers, and we've automated the heck out of this thing, basically takes the fuel out and pumps it into an oil tanker on the property. Another very important thing about this unit is ILChem, we've done something unique. We've installed 59 sensors on this machine. So we have oxygen sensors, we have hydrogen sensors, we have pressure sensors, we have thermocouples everywhere on it to give us temperatures. And what we're able to do with the software and hardware that we design on our site is track what this machine does every 10 seconds and log it into a huge database for ILChem. So when we pull fuel out of the machine, we can say, this is what happened, and here's how it made, here's how it got there. Because we've learned something about a reaction that's very unique, and it's really a lot cool, and it's fun. It's a little scary on some cases, too, because when the reaction starts, it takes off. You put a ton in that reactor, and it leaves in 5 minutes. So you've got to have the back end to be able to cool all that hot gas and condense it down to liquid fairly quickly. So our bottleneck really is how do you manage it to stabilize the system? And fortunately, with all of the automation controls we have in it, it allows us to monitor it, and they can connect it remotely and change the algorithm. I can watch it from my place, Alan watches it from his. Someone will be sleeping, they're babysitting it 24 hours a day, they have to. Keep an eye on it. This is our combustion system. The Chinese unit was very simply a pipe with a large black thing that looked like a huge Bunsen burner. That wasn't acceptable in this country. So this is what you're supposed to do. So we actually fire this unit on natural gas that comes into the building first. Once it's up to heat and running, that black pipe coming down is our off gas that's then fed into this whole control center that runs the process really and keeps it heated and running. And moving forward, what do we have to do now? So, ILChem's validated what we've done. It works, it's repeatable, it's scalable. Now what? First thing, get permits and get them fast. And fortunately, we have a lot of people on our side. Municipalities don't want any more plastic, they want to convert it to fuel, they like it. The DEC is helping, they're working with ILChem to get us through the permit process quickly. It's a green unit, they can see that, the chemistry proves it, and the stack test eventually here over the next couple of weeks will certainly prove that on a very large scale. So what we want to do is get permitted in New York State and use that permit instantly, then to get permits in Florida and Canada. We don't have any control over how long those take. Some areas take longer than others. It's just a fact of life. One thing that is helpful is the stack testing company, CRA, that's testing our stack in New York, is out of Waterloo. So it'll be very easy. They're an international firm, so they'll be able to test us for Canada. And they also have offices in Florida. So they can help us move fairly quickly through the permitting process, and you be sure we're pushing it as hard as we can. Second part is maximize the Niagara Falls, New York facility. So it'd be nice to go out and set up 20 sites tomorrow, go through the permitting and all that. What I want to do is maximize the numbers to show the true value of what our plastic to oil processor is. What's the best way of doing that? Fill up every square foot of that factory we bought with plastic to oil machines. Hook them all up to the same stack and let them go. And just keep feeding them. So that's what our first plan is, to really maximize the Niagara Falls, New York facility, get our revenues in from that, show what this unit is we're truly capable of, what the return is, and then from there, go out permit other areas. We plan to prove our P2O validity with 2 to 3 running processors. We'll have them running in New York. I can tell you that our Florida management team is very, very eager. So while this is going on, they're working on Florida simultaneously. Our company loves to do things in parallel anyway. We all work very well together, so we're able to accomplish this. And that's everything I've got to say about plastic to oil. Over here. We've come a long way in 1 year. And plastic to oil, which would usually be one whole business unit, has just been one part of our company. I can tell you I spend 99% of my time now on plastic to oil. I love it, passionate about it, it's a lot of fun, and really in the end, it's all about for us, when you saw that hydrocarbon chart, it's about tightening up that graph as tight as we can, and that's just been a lot of fun on the processing side, which is something I'm really good at. And as well, I just wanted to let you know that we really brought this idea in April. It was a concept then. We had some preliminary results, and now we've got a full-size processor in 1 year. And that's through the help of a lot of shareholders like you that have helped make this happen and build this company what it is. And I can't wait for the next year to report to you where we are, where we're at next year, right here, same time, same place.
Thank you. I know we're running a little late on time, but at this point, I would like to introduce the opportunity to an open question and answer period. So we'll have about 15 minutes. I know we've been here a while now. So if you have a question, we have 2 microphones set up, one in each of the side aisles. Please proceed and form a line behind each. We'll get to as many questions as possible. I'm going to ask that you limit to 1 question per person. We will direct your question to a member of our management team for response. So
we started procuring the machines to do our retail rollout. We learned something very quickly, that you can't get custom machines next week. So we went ahead with our infomercials. We've had them, we've engaged Western Creative, which created the product packaging. We went ahead immediately and engaged companies to build the machines. With the economy, they have been a little slower at delivering these machines, which is a frustration that we have to live with right now. We expect our infomercials to launch next month. It's dependent on a few key large machines. To give you an idea, Packet was, again, a back of the house production house. So it didn't have automatic labeling machines. They silk screened their own bottles by hand, every one, slowly. And so we had to buy machines to automatically label those, and you don't get those in 4 weeks or 6 weeks. It's generally a 12-week lead time. So that's where the delays come from the Packet infomercial launch. I'm very, very passionate about getting that out. I know Steve loves the product, he's passionate about it too, and so we're moving as fast as we can on that side. We also have some new large machines that make 6 packets simultaneously, and we're waiting for that as well. The delivery date is in May. If we had launched an infomercial, and I was already advised, based on general infomercial results, if our Home Depot kits were doing what, 2,000 a quarter? We're doing about 2,000 kits a quarter. Well, an infomercial launch is 100,000 kits. We don't have enough warm bodies to silk screen 100,000 kids worth of bottles, and we go bankrupt trying to do it. So we really got to have the right high-end equipment to do that, and we're going forward as quickly as we can, and it's totally dependent on the machines that are able to produce the packets and volume. Hope that answers your question.
Okay, go ahead.
Go ahead, Jay.
I'm another investor from the Midwest of our neighbors to the south. So what I'm interested in, because of the economy and the number of unemployed people in our country, I noticed on one of the slides that John indicated that this is going to create a number of jobs. Have you been in contact with the U.S. government as far as getting the ability to create jobs and get reimbursed for those, as far as setting new plans?
That's actually best answered by Jeff Weber, who's been working with our PTO Florida team on tax credits. Jeff.
Hi, I'm Jeff Weber. To answer your question, we have talked to two congressmen about our P2O rollout, and they are very encouraged with our green technology. We also have engaged a firm that will work with us on tax credits, job creation credits, Department of Energy credits, and new market tax credits.
Thank you.
I just wanted to ask, is there any further update with the progress of the Florida PTO or anything specific?
Answers is announced.
Could you repeat the question for me, please? Yeah, I was just asking if there was any other progress with the Florida PTO group.
Progress in what particular area?
Well, how close, once everything else is established and ready to go from a processor standpoint?
We've got a couple of discussions with a number of potential manufacturers that are domestically based. We're looking at rolling out a very strategic plan to identify the appropriate manufacturers that can actually accomplish what we need to accomplish based on the standards established by John and JBI. So we have initiated those discussions with one particular manufacturer and in the process of evaluating a number of other opportunities. The nice thing about it is people are encouraged about working with us. That's a nice thing, so the opportunity to choose and select the cream of the crop is certainly in our advantage at the moment.
Go ahead.
While you probably can't speak on any current passive supply agreements you may have in place now, I was wondering if you could tell us how the discussions have gone and what the long-term strategy is on obtaining the feedstock.
Hi, I'm Michael Kaplanis. I'm very pleased so far with our research on the topic of plastic on both the private and public streams. We had to start somewhere, so we wanted to start building that corporate knowledge on how the current recycling and waste stream operates, both in Florida, but also nationally and in some cases internationally. So we're finding, it's quite exciting to find that it's abundant, it's available, and we'll keep making progress along those tracks. And now it's a matter of going along with all those steps that John laid out, from URS, building the machines, the comment that Al made about manufacturers. These are dual tracks. So plastic will come as we're ready to implement machines and roll out. Thank you.
Go ahead.
Naturally, the financing of the company is dependent upon its operations and its results. Hopefully, we won't have any more delays in generating revenues from the Niagara Falls plastic to oil plant. And if those revenues are sufficient to fund our future growth to the level we wish to have it, hopefully we wouldn't have to do any more private offerings. I can't stand here and tell you that we won't, but we've tried not to.
Go ahead.
The current quarter of revenue, have you anticipated that?
The current quarter revenue does not include the revenue stream from plastic to oil. We expect that will be a significant revenue stream. The costs are lower and the profit will be higher. So expect that we will have to wait until we see what the actual results of the plastic foil process is.
John, you had previously mentioned that you hope that the new equipment for the rollout of the P2O on side would be produced in North America after Canada.
I can tell you that one of the things I failed to mention, but Isle came and talked to me about when I sat with Valley, they said, so what do you want us to do? We can build a $7 million refinery about this thing and drive up costs so high that it's not profitable. Or we can keep it simple, make it as simple and easy to build as possible, which they've done, and which we've done, to make sure that we can have it built by just about any machine shop. There are no critical parts of this machine. We don't have to go to aircraft standards in any way. We don't even have high pressure welds. It runs at atmospheric temperature. The parts that you see on the machine, all the modifications, were done here, in our own shops, by our own welders. So it isn't a complex machine to make, and we've had to keep it that way because we want to be able to engage local contractors and builders and manufacturers and machine shops to help us build very large parts to avoid all the shipping and logistics of having this thing come from 100 different places. So really, when you look at most machine shops in the area, they could actually build most of the machine, less a few parts that we'll control internally that we'll build ourselves, which were laid around to one of the columns, which has to do with the catalyst and some other such things like that. But for the most part, we're trying to keep as much of it as off the shelf as possible. For China, there is some interesting comments there. It more has to do with the weld. If a weld gives, this thing is a refinery in the end. So we can't afford a weak weld, a fault weld, or anything. And we're better off making it here anyway. We've modified the machine so much that when I show you a picture tomorrow of what the Chinese machine looks like compared to what we've turned it into, they're really not comparable anymore. But one thing we can see is all those changes we made here locally. We have a machine shop here in Niagara Falls. We also have one at the P2O factory. Our welders there are exceptionally skilled. They're amazing people. They even sign their work on it. I mean, these guys are incredible. So they're used to working with equipment like this. So for the most part, we have it made actually locally where we're going to launch a cluster of machines. We really want to go on. We've answered the comment letter. We've sent them all the answers to any questions they have. Please remember that we are an MTC company first, so this takes time. Basically, it's on their schedule with their analyst. The first thing that's probably caused some pause, and I mean even some funds looked at me and said, okay, you brought a company public, you brought no funds in, you've returned a ton of stock, it'll be worth a lot of money. What are we missing here? And so that has caused some pauses. In addition to that, and I understand that some of the senior folks there had asked, did we do a reverse split because our stock went from 1 to 7? So we're just, because of the exchange we're on, it's just going to take a bit of time. What I can say is that we provided them with all the information that they could possibly need. We certainly meet the requirements of uplisting. I can tell you that I am certainly, we're in constant communication with them to now try, we want to uplist as quickly as possible. In all bluntness, I hate the exchange we're on. I don't have any choice. It's where you start, and then from there you can go up. But I can't give you a specific timeline. It's all up to the larger exchanges.
Do we have one more question?
Yes, with regards to the plastics to oil, the permits, as I understand, the permits are still in the process. And is there a downside to getting the permits? Is there some reason why permits would not be, wouldn't be permitted?
Well, downside. Pardon? Well, I'm trying to think for the New York side. No, I mean there's always risk. I mean they could show up that day, something stupid could happen, but the odds of that happening are remote to nil. We've done too many repeatable runs to have any problems. So really it's about, we're just going through the technical process of a permit. And it generally takes 6 months to get permitted. And they move really fast. They have helped us enormously going through these steps. They've given considerable latitude in documents and exceptions that they've given us to allow us to build and go this quickly. Usually it takes a lot longer. Remember, we are, in essence, building a refinery that takes plastic instead of crude. And so with that, generally there are a lot of permitting steps. Fortunately for us, The only permit we need is called a quote, simple air permit. And so that has again simplified the process more. We found ways to eliminate fuel storage permits and air emission permits with those. However, the air permit, I don't foresee anything. I'll have Jeff talk about permitting if he foresees anything.
Expanding beyond New York, we have engaged URS, which John mentioned. And URS, again, is an international firm, and one of their specialties is permitting. I've worked with them for probably 15 years on a variety of projects, and they are the best in the business. Permits are local, though, so they take time. Some permits can be done in 30, 60, 90 days. In some cases, it takes a year. And that's the team that we have assembled for P2O is focused on permits.
Okay. With that, I would just like to ask everyone to join me in a round of applause to congratulate the JBI team and John on all their hard work this year and to thank them for everything that they have done for us. So. Thank you all for coming and for being here. This concludes our meeting. We look forward to seeing you again next year.